You ever look at the blockchain space and just think, it's supposed to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
But it feels, well, kind of messy sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. So many chains, different ways to connect them or not connect them. It gets complicated fast.
Yeah, like having a dozen different phones with different operating systems.
Yeah.
Which is why this Initia project, INIT, caught our eye. They seem to be trying to streamline things a bit.
Exactly. We've been digging into the info you sent over, and it all revolves around this concept they call interwoven rollups.
Right.
So our mission today really is to cut through the jargon, figure out what that actually means, what makes Initia different, and why should you, listening in, care? We've got a good range of sources to pull from.
Okay, let's do it. So interwoven rollups. Sounds fancy. But what are they actually building? Is it just another L1 trying to compete?
Not quite in the way you might think. It's more about creating a network. The idea is that these application-specific chains, or app chains, they shouldn't be isolated islands. Initia wants them to be deeply connected, like interwoven, anchored to their main L1. Think less scattered islands, more like a connected archipelago.
Interesting analogy.
Yeah, they're really trying to make that whole app chain vision work, but, in a way that's actually user-friendly and interconnected. Maybe even solve that tricky problem of getting liquidity moving between chains easily.
So you get the benefit of specialized chains for specific apps, but without the fragmentation we see now, like no more stranded assets or user bases.
That's the goal. They're focused on making it way easier for developers to launch these things. They provide shared standards, shared infrastructure.
Right.
So these app chains can talk to each other, tap into shared money pools, reach more users. It's about building that connective tissue.
Okay, makes sense. And they mentioned this interwoven stack. Is that the magic ingredient? What's in the stack?
Yeah, the interwoven stack is basically their toolkit for building these rollups. What's neat is that developers get a lot of freedom to customize their specific rollup. The whole tech stack, really, for whatever their app needs. But crucially, they still fit into the wider network standards. And it's not just one type of environment either.
Oh.
No, they support the EVM, which everyone knows from Ethereum, but also MultiVM.
Okay, MultiVM, right? Known for safety.
Exactly. Potentially more secure contracts there. And also WASM VM. So lots of flexibility for developers in how they build.
That is versatile. And the performance numbers, 10,000 TPS, 500 millisecond block times. That sounds fast. What does that speed actually unlock, practically speaking, compared to what we have now?
Well, that kind of speed could really open the door for things like super fast decentralized exchanges, complex games running fully on-chain, maybe even widespread micropayments, things that choke on slower chains.
Right.
And this is all built on the Cosmos SDK underneath, which gives them more control, like over how transactions get ordered, and even ways to handle MEV, minor extractable value, maybe more fairly.
MEV management, always a tricky one.
Yeah. And importantly, the stack has layer 0 built in for interoperability right out of the box.
So they connect to other chains easily.
Instantly. Connects them to a huge network of existing blockchains. Plus, they use Celestia for data availability.
Celestia, okay. So that's for proving transaction data is available.
You got it. It makes sure all the data from these rollups is public and verifiable, even if a rollup has issues. It's key for security and trust.
So right from launch, these app chains can talk widely and have solid data backing. That's a strong start.
Definitely. And they bundle in other tools too, like oracles for real-world data, native USDC integration, indexers to make data easy to query, trying to cover the bases for developers.
Okay, let's zoom in on the Initia L1 itself. You mentioned it's built on Cosmos SDK, but with MultiVM. That sounds unique in the Cosmos world.
It is. It's the first Cosmos SDK chain using MultiVM, which is pretty notable. But maybe the most distinctive thing about the L1 is this enshrined liquidity idea.
Enshrined liquidity. Okay, intriguing name. More than just standard staking, I assume.
Yeah, it's a twist on proof of stake. Instead of just locking up the INIT token directly to secure the network, you provide INIT-based liquidity to a native DX on the L1. That liquidity is what gets staked with the validators.
Oh, interesting. So the staked assets are actually productive liquidity.
Exactly. It serves two purposes at once. The capital securing the network is also the pool of cross-chain liquidity available for all the connected app chains. It's pretty clever, a key differentiator for them.
Wow. Okay. So the L1 isn't just the security layer. It's the central bank, kind of, providing the main liquidity pool for this whole interwoven economy.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's designed to be that central liquidity hub that all the app chains can draw from easily.
And the INIT token itself must be pretty central to all this. What are its main jobs?
It wears a few hats. First, it's the gas token. You pay fees in INIT, not just on the L1, but on all the interwoven rollups too.
Okay, standard gas token utility creates demand.
Right. Second, like we just discussed, it's the core asset for liquidity providers on that native L1 DX. That staked INIT liquidity is fundamental for security and for enabling cross-chain swaps.
Gas and stake liquidity.
Yep.
Got it. What else?
The app chains, the rollups, they actually pay settlement fees back to the L1 and INIT.
So activity on the rollups directly benefits the L1 and INIT holders.
Precisely. Creates a direct economic feedback loop. And finally, INIT is key to their Initia VIP program, which is all about economic alignment. We can dig into that more. But yeah, the tokenomics seem designed to tie everything together.
Seems quite integrated. Now, they also mentioned a product suite. What's the idea behind offering all these different tools?
It seems to be all about user experience, really.
Sure.
Trying to make navigating this potentially complex multi-chain setup feel, well, simple and unified.
Like a single dashboard or OS for the whole Initia ecosystem?
Kind of, yeah. They have Initia Scan, that's an explorer for the L1 and all the L2 rollups. Then the Initia app, which sounds like it'll be the main hub or dashboard.
All right.
They also have Initia usernames, to replace those long, clunky wallet addresses with something readable. And Initia multisig.
A multi-sig that works across different VMs? That sounds handy.
Yeah, given they support EVM, Move, WASM, having a multisig that works across them is pretty practical.
What else is in the suite?
There's an Initia wallet widget aiming for a simple front end to connect to all the different rollups and manage assets easily. And an Initia bridge widget to make moving funds in from IBC or Layer 0 chains straightforward.
Right.
The whole point seems to be reducing friction, both for the devs building stuff and for the people actually using the apps.
Making multi-chain less painful. Definitely needed. Okay, let's circle back to that Initia VIP framework. You said it's about economic alignment. How does that work?
Right, VIP. It's basically their system for making sure the L1, the rollups, and the users all benefit when things go well. It's an incentive program fundamentally driven by distributing INIT tokens programmatically.
Okay, so how are those INIT tokens distributed?
Well, rewards flow from the L1 to the interwoven rollups. How much each rollup gets depends on L1 governance decisions and also on metrics like how much INIT is locked on the L1, the TVL.
So more value locked on the L1 means more rewards flow out to the rollups.
Exactly. Success on the L1 feeds the rollups. And then...
And the rollups pass it on.
Right. The rollups distribute those INIT rewards to their users based on activity within their specific app, measured by, on-chain usage, KPIs.
And users just get the tokens.
Usually with vesting periods, which encourages people to stick around, stay active in that app and in the wider Initia ecosystem. It's designed to build loyalty, not just attract fly-by-night users.
A positive feedback loop. Clever. Okay, let's shift to the money side. $25 million raised. That's significant backing. Where did it come from?
It's a mix. Most of it, $22.5 million, came from 3 private rounds, started with a pre-seed led by Binance Labs back in early 2023.
Binance Labs, okay. Big name early on.
Yeah. Then a seed round later in 23 led by Delphi Digital and Hack VC, and then a Series A in 2024 led by Theory Ventures. Across those rounds, they sold about 15.25% of the total INIT supply.
And the other $2.5 million.
That was a public sale on Echo.xyz through The Economist that represented 1% of the supply.
So, strong institutional backing plus some community involvement via the public sale. Got it. Let's look closer at the tokenomics specifics. Key numbers.
Sure. Total supply is capped at 1 billion INIT. Max supply, 1 billion. When it listed, including the Binance launch pool, the initial circulating supply was around 148.75 million INIT.
Which is what percentage?
About 14.88% of the total. And out of that, 30 million tokens, or 3%, were allocated to that Binance launch pool that started April 18th, 2025. That initial float percentage is always important to watch.
Roughly 15% circulating at launch.
Good to know.
Okay, beyond the tech and the funding, what else stands out? Any key highlights or things already built?
Well, the fact they already had 16 interwoven rollups announced, even before mainnet, is pretty impressive. And those projects had raised over $28 million themselves from good investors. Shows early buy-in.
That's definitely a strong signal.
And the multi-VM capability itself is a big deal, making EVM, MultiVM, and WASM VM all work together smoothly, with tokens being fungible across them. That's technically challenging and solves a real pain point.
No doubt. And being the first MultiVM on the Cosmos SDK, That opens up the whole IBC world, right?
Exactly. They get the security focus of Move and the interoperability of the Cosmos ecosystem via IBC. Plus, like we said, Layer 0 is built in too, so they launched with really strong connections from day one.
Okay. Now, the token distribution overall, you mentioned various categories.
Yeah, the 1 billion tokens are split up. There are allocations for the community, the foundation running things, the team and advisors, those early investors, the Binance launch pool folks,
Right.
funds set aside for staking rewards, and that enshrined liquidity mechanism, the VIP program we talked about, and then a bucket for general ecosystem growth. The percentages vary for each.
And the release schedule. I think you mentioned some long vesting periods.
That's right. While some tokens unlock earlier, categories like the staking liquidity funds and the VIP program rewards are set to vest over a much longer time frame. Some stretch out beyond 2032.
Wow. Okay. That's long-term alignment.
Definitely designed to keep key stakeholders invested in the long-haul success and stability of the network.
Makes sense. Now, about that initial supply again. The source material mentioned a difference between the reported circulation and the real float. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that was an interesting point. They flagged the reported day one circulating percent as that 14.88% figure we mentioned, but they also calculated a day one real float percent, which they estimated closer to 11%.
So real float is what's actually likely to be traded immediately.
That seems to be the idea. Trying to estimate the truly liquid supply right at launch, they broke that 11% down further.
How so?
They put allocations like the airdrop, the launch pool tokens, and Binance marketing tokens into a retailer percent bucket, which made up that full 11%. The rest of the initial unlocked tokens, about 3.88%, they labeled institution project controlled percent. That included foundation tokens and initial liquidity.
Okay, so distinguishing between potentially free trading tokens and those likely held longer term by the project or institutions, useful nuance for market watchers.
Exactly. Gives a clear picture of immediate supply pressure.
All right, looking ahead, what's the roadmap? They hit mainnet. What's next?
Well, they had a busy lead up. Coming out of stealth late 2023, the funding rounds in 24, public testnet Q2 24, the Echo sale Q3 24. And then, yeah, the big one, mainnet launch targeted for Q2 2025.
And post-mainnet. What were the immediate plans for Q2 2025?
Right after launch, the focus was on the mainnet itself being stable, rolling out the airdrop to early supporters, and getting that first wave of 16-plus interwoven rollups live and running.
Okay. And beyond that, Q3, Q4.
Q3 2025 was slated for bringing on more rollups, upgrading their product suite, the wallet bridge, etc., and boosting L1 performance. Then Q4 2025 plans included adding support for new virtual machines, expanding developer options further, and general improvements to the interwoven stack. So yeah, pre-packed schedule.
Definitely sounds like they're pushing hard on development and expansion. What about partnerships? Any key collaborations driving adoption?
They highlighted several strategic ones. Celestia obviously is huge, providing that critical data availability layer for all the rollups. That's fundamental.
Right.
Layer 0, as their interoperability standard, connects them broadly. Working with Skip provides essential Cosmos SDK tooling.
Makes sense. And what about partnerships like Athena or EtherFi? How do those fit in?
Good question. The Athena collaboration brings their stablecoins, USDD, and the staked version, SUSDD, into the Initia ecosystem. Gives users stable options, potentially yield-bearing ones too, and Athena actually invested in some Initia rollups, showing belief.
Okay. Deepens the DeFi integration.
Yeah. And the EtherFi integration adds liquid staking for Ethereum, specifically their WETH token. More flexibility for users holding ETH derivatives. And Goldsky provides data services, making developers' lives easier. It all points to building a really robust, connected DeFi ecosystem.
Seems like a clear strategy to integrate with key players.
Yeah.
Okay, last point. For listeners who want to dig deeper, follow along, maybe get involved, where should they go?
They're active on X or Twitter. They have a main account and a separate ecosystem account for rollup news, Medium for longer articles, a Discord server for community chat, and of course, detailed developer documentation.
Great. Plenty of places to look. So let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive on Initia?
I think the core thing is Initia's really trying a different approach to multi-chain with these interwoven rollups. There's a huge focus on developer experience and end-user experience, making it easier to build and use apps across chains. That enshrined liquidity mechanism is genuinely novel, and the MultiVM support is a big technical plus. They seem serious about building a connected, functional ecosystem.
Yeah, it definitely feels like an attempt to tackle that fragmentation and complexity we started with. A potentially more streamlined future. Which leads to a final thought, maybe. Given this modular, interconnected design, What totally new kinds of apps or user experiences could this architecture unlock? Things that just aren't practical today.
That's the big question, isn't it? It really pushes you to think about what becomes possible when barriers between chains start to dissolve like this.
Definitely something to chew on. Well, if you want to explore Initia more, check out those community channels we mentioned. It'll certainly be interesting to see how this evolves alongside the rest of the blockchain space.
For sure. Always exciting to see new approaches trying to solve these hard problems.